This was the greatest regret of the woman's life. The poor man she once abandoned had become a respected and successful naval officer 7 years later. Meanwhile, her own family had gone bankrupt, and she was now nothing more than a fallen noblewoman. Worse still, he still hadn't forgiven her for what happened back then. Even though Mary was still deeply in love with him, Carl made it clear they could only remain ordinary friends. So all she could do was stand there and watch him grow closer to the woman he was courting. The woman suddenly leaped from a 6-foot staircase on purpose, and Carl caught her perfectly in his arms. That single moment pierced Mary's heart like a knife, wanting to relive the intimacy again. Danny deliberately jumped from the stairs a second time, but this time, things ended in disaster. Carl failed to catch her in time, and she slammed her head hard against the ground, falling unconscious instantly. Although Danny's life wasn't in danger, Carl was consumed with guilt. He believed his indecisive behavior had indirectly caused the accident. That day, even though he told Mary they could only be friends, he still couldn't forget her. Countless times, he had wanted to put aside his pride and reconcile with her, but after what happened, his sense of responsibility made him feel obligated to stay by Danny's side. A heavy sadness slowly overwhelmed Mary. She realized there was no longer any chance for them to be together again. In order to move on, she finally agreed to the blind date arranged by her family. To her surprise, the man turned out to be the stranger she had met by the seaside. Charlie was wealthy, handsome, and incredibly charming, but his wife had passed away only 3 months earlier. Yet he was already flirting with Mary, while secretly exchanging looks with her sister at the same time. Still, Mary was no longer a girl dreaming about fairy tale romance. She understood now that real life wasn't a storybook, and spending her life with someone comfortable and dependable might not be such a bad choice after all. Just as she was debating whether to accept Charlie, she received news that completely shattered her. Carl had gotten engaged to the woman he was courting. Mary thought she was prepared to hear anything about him, but she had underestimated her own feelings. Her tears immediately spilled over uncontrollably. She believed she and Carl would never cross paths again. But the very next day, they unexpectedly ran into each other at a bakery. Now trapped in an awkward situation, Mary introduced Carl to the man she was seeing, and praised Charlie for being thoughtful and considerate. Carl forced an ugly smile onto his face, while desperately hiding the pain inside. At that moment, Charlie suddenly appeared, interrupting whatever Carl had been about to say. Watching the two of them interact so naturally, a bitter ache spread through Carl's chest, as if he couldn't even breathe. Charlie either failed to notice the pain in Carl's eyes, or pretended not to. He warmly invited Carl to join them for a concert, and Carl calmly accepted. Finally, when Mary was briefly alone, Carl walked over to her himself. He told her he was facing a difficult decision. A position overseas had been offered to him, and he was expected to leave that Saturday. If he accepted, he had no idea when he would return. So, before making his choice, he wanted to know what Mary thought. But before she could answer, Charlie suddenly walked in again, asking Mary to help translate a piece of sheet music. Then, with obvious hidden meaning, Charlie casually mentioned that he hoped Carl could make time to attend their wedding. Carl froze where he stood. In so much pain, he couldn't even force out a single word. And when Mary learned he was leaving, she couldn't stop herself from crying either. What was supposed to be a beautiful concert instantly became a silent farewell between the two of them. Halfway through the performance, Carl finally could no longer endure the pain and quietly walked away.